Welcome back, fellow armchair generals, to the crushing of the Soviet Union. This is Gamer1745 here, and if you haven't already, I know you've heard me say this 1,000 times if you're around, hit that subscribe button. I would really love to have you officially fully here. Yeah, please do. And also like the videos. Oh, and comments. The more comments I get on a video or video series, the more I'm going to continue doing it. You don't know how much comments help. Even if it's every video you watch, you say hi on it. I'll probably say hi back until it gets too many people doing it. Not you doing it too much, but too many people doing it. But yeah, please, let's see if we can get more comments on the videos. It really, really helps. Okay, let's see what we can do. What was that? Just playing strategic command before this, and they have the different protocols for things. Okay, now let's airstrike this. Oh, again, different protocols. Man, you're beat up that area unit. You're even more beat up now. They should. Good. Let's retreat you to there. You come up to here. That will give us. Now, that got weaker there. Yeah. Okay, well, that's hammered them a bit much. Don't know how some of these are still alive. Mine seems to suffer a lot more from lack of supply than they seem to. Okay. Getting some supply up to there, so into there. And fall back one into supply. Building better chance. Yeah, I know repairing the railroads and all that is a very real thing. Okay, well, their shattering is useful. Let's just try to fully pocket these guys. They can come to here, they can come to here. Does that get them by any chance not coming across the river now? Let's just move them to there. Is that enough to do a... Nope, we're gonna let them starve a little more. This is still crushing them, and it's no way do I think the supply problem is unrealistic that deep into the Soviet Union. More for me, it's just the annoying element of having to, not having to just surrender. Okay, well. See about getting some of these guys to the west. I forget what was I doing with the Italians, moving them east or west. Think west. Got these guys all the way out here, but I think these guys were going west. Let's put them on rails. Where do we want them? Where do we want them? Okay, we're gonna need an HQ. Yeah, well, I'm thinking if I was putting some to put that HQ there. Is that it? Have we already moved the other HQ out? Because I think there was two. One that came up from the south, and one that one's probably the one that came up from the south. It's probably that one there, the other one. Okay, well. Okay, North Africa. I think they're going to be part of our North Africa garrison. We're going to keep some German units in North Africa. But I think we're going to try to staff much of it with Italians. So I don't know if they're going to do another major. You see, even the submarines are heading out of the Mediterranean. If they're going to do another major Mediterranean type push, I think we're going to face an American landing or Allied landing, and likely we'll push that back. Let's see, let's put you on trains. Parachuting into England right now doesn't look like a useful option. Maybe we could secure a port or something, but even that doesn't look like likely. I don't think we can parachute into Gibraltar. Well, I guess we'll move them over here anyways. Now, they were the Moscow garrison. We want a Moscow garrison. Okay, these guys have just, once again, look at the supply to there. Okay, well. We'll stay there. Hopefully there'll be enough supply. These guys have to help with supply there. All right, let's look at building things. Italy and HQ. Not a bad idea, but these, of course, are not currently options. I think we're going to continue to save up. Well, let's increase the amount. Keep production, stockpiling. Yeah, I don't think we need more units, so let's got a lot of those damaged air units. Let's increase upkeep. Not that we wouldn't want more units, but I don't think that's the main issue. I think it's upkeep on units. So let's. Oh, well, we can move somewhere hopefully useful. Okay, let's look at here. So that connects the rail, gets repaired and supplied, and you can come to here and come up to there. Okay, now let's end the turn. Yeah, I see units that maybe should have been moved. Oh, even here, that should have. I've been ignoring that. Yeah, I could take 4 times as long per turn and just slowly go over things. But yeah, it's not a complaint, it's just more of an observation that very good. Okay, well, now that we have some level of supply, let's bring you guys up to there. You can come up to there. That'll help supply up and through there. Yeah, I know, I see that. That's a bit of an annoyance. Okay, you come to there. 3 to 1. Bye-bye. Good. Finally. 6 to 1. 10 to 1. Okay. Okay, they get to hold out, I guess. We retreat, we can take arcane tool to help us with supply. Okay, Italians, you come and deal with those two air units sitting back there. Okay, hopefully that will help us get the rails going before we move the armored forces forward again. That'll keep the path open. Make sure they stay very encircled. Okay, no, not quite all the way down here. Let's get you guys. Oh, your rugged terrain, I guess. Proper invasion, I think, could still do a lot of damage down here. If we don't, I mean, if we have all of this, yeah, it's pretty solid. But well, your condition is reasonably good. Let's see if we can convert you to, or task you, I should say. Oh, damage 2 sunk. Look like they went down. Very good. Now, of course, we are building up our forces here, so okay, let's move you via rail up to Copenhagen. Sounds cool. Gonna see about maybe putting you up here in case they decide to come. that way. We'll come to Kiel. Kiel command there. We might want something in Copenhagen as well. Now, just talking about Copenhagen a couple times here. And I think, because I've been sort of prompted to, I made a Spain in World War II video, and it's sort of like this, that it was somewhat spur of the moment. It would be better. I don't just, whenever I've tried to like read a script, even something I've written, I come off very stilted and bad, at least sounding to me, so I figure it's pretty good. I mean, pretty going to be like that for you. But when I just talk to you guys, I do better. But I could have notes that have some detailed facts and plus keep me on track. What I want to talk about, plan it all out beforehand. So I'm thinking I might end up doing, and hey, comment below if you're interested in this. Like different the different countries during World War II and what was going on with them, and leading up to it. Leading up to it is an important element, because I did Spain in World War II for a while ago. Now it didn't get a lot of views, and I don't know whether it was just YouTube not recommending it to the viewers, or whether viewers just saw the thumbnail and title and didn't click on it. But yeah, it got pretty bad viewing compared to some stuff. I thought it was pretty good and at least worth a click on it. People may decide not to. But sort of along that kind of line, Denmark in World War II. Very interesting case. There was a tiny bit of fighting, not anything like Norway, even by the Norwegians trying to defend. The Norwegians, once the invasion happened, and they had a real shock that it was happening. I don't know how. I think just disbelief, maybe, that they were even really going to be invaded. I don't know if I'm sure they must have been doing some levels of mobilization, training up, once World War II kicked off. Hey, Germany invades Poland and whatnot, but they don't seem to have really taken the whole thing serious in Norway. And then I can definitely see and there was a lot of action going on in and around Norway. Hell, the British and the French were thinking about invading Norway and getting ready to do so to help the Finns out, and then that didn't happen. But so they sort of had the plans ready, and then they were sort of like, well, maybe we'll do it anyways to secure the Narvik steel coming down. The Swedish steel through Narvik coming down, and submarines and ships and mine laying by maybe both sides, or no, by the British, I think, to cut off in Norwegian territory. So there was a lot of action going on, and I'm not saying that there wasn't, and I could maybe look this up more, like I say, some level of heightened deployment and heightened readiness, but it just seems like oh shit, they're landing at our airport, kind of thing, and no preparation of any defense, because I think that the whole Norway had the ability to freaking defend its airport. I am sure of that. I don't know how many. I think there were some paratroopers into the Oslo airport, and then while there was still basically sort of fighting going on in the immediate area around it, they were landing aircraft in. I don't know if any aircraft actually caught bullets, the Ju-52 transports, but they were flying in. It wasn't like, oh, this is all secure and secure zone. No, they were flying into a relatively hot airport and deploying troops out of airplanes. And I'm absolutely sure Norway had the ability to just soldiers with Krieg rifles and the Colt machine, or their versions of the Colt machine guns mounted around, could have held the airport. Now, maybe that would have meant not holding a bunch of other places, true, but they could have freaking held their airport. With some acceptable preparations. Okay, but get back to Denmark is where we're starting with this. Nations need to take rational decisions. At least that's my idea of what nations, they should be rational. Could Denmark defend itself in, let's say, 1914, 1918? Yes. If it put from Germany, or even from, I guess, an Entente landing of some sort. Yes. Now, not necessarily, a 1914 German invasion solely against Denmark. Nothing else going on in the world. Yeah, no, Germany could conquer that. Because if you jump back to the Napoleonic Wars, Denmark can defend itself because it had a fairly large fleet. It's on islands, and it had built some, for that time, fairly modern forts. And, it had a real chance to defend itself. Mostly fought the British. Lost. But some of that was just, that was with Napoleon a close, or not, with Nelson, close run affair, and that was where Nelson had, I forget the admiral's name, put in charge over him, because they were worried that Nelson might be a little too headstrong, or whatever the term they might have used, bold, dashing, reckless, I don't know. Man, I'm going to think of the other admiral's name. I'm a lot of characteristics about him, but I'm sort of an admiral of indecision, caution and indecision over him, and that's where Denmark is where he gets the signal, or no, he is signaled by the admiral to withdraw, and one of his, flag captains, flag lieutenants, if you know what those type jobs are, or somebody brings the attention to him, and he goes, really? Turns around, looks back at the flag, and puts the telescope up to his eye, and because he only has one eye, and looks at it and goes, I can't see any such signal. Now, of course, he puts it to his patched eye, the one that is missing. So, and he pushes in and defeats them, because he unlike the admiral in charge, who's way back, he sees the opportunity that he has close up, and withdrawing, and through all the smoke and confusion, it might not look like such a good idea from back a ways, but he sees that it's going to be victorious, and it was. Sort of the Battle of the Nile Part 2 kind of thing. And people have often wondered, did the Danes not really pay attention to what Nelson did in the Battle of the Nile? And I know we're getting into the weeds here, sorry. But yeah, so it could. Now, technology goes on ahead, and we can see Maginot Line and whatnot, blah, blah, blah. Modern fortifications, but without anti-aircraft. Yeah, you can make, because it's islands, because of whatnot, you could really invest a lot of time and effort into Denmark and make it something that's, like a hand grenade with spikes, or whatever you want, something that you can hold on to and get, but man, it's going to make you're bloody all to hell. You may survive and be victorious in conquering it, but you're just going to be messed up, taken out. Sort of looking at Switzerland, it's that sort of thing. But the Danish people, I would say, culturally at that time, the Danish government, whatever, just doesn't have that on their agenda. They just don't have that sort of Swiss-like mass, not just immediate mobilization, I mean, generation or two of mobilization. So since it doesn't have all of that, what's the goal and objective militarily for Denmark? Now, nations need armies, and some people really hate it when I do this, and I'm not going to go too deep in it, but America is right now facing an insurrection. It's clear. It's an insurrection. Now, is it going to topple the government? No. Not even if Joe Biden was in charge, this isn't going to topple the government. But it's a lot of the reason it's happening as bad as it is the unwillingness of the government to push back vigorously, I think would be a good term. But so part of the reason you have armies, and this is what a lot of democracies don't want to do, is to defend the government from its own people. Not from, enemies abroad or being invaded. Because, let's just say 10% of the people in a country get organized and really want something, to take over the government because they want free fish for everybody. I don't want to make this right, left, center, because they're, people, oh, well, the right, a lot of the movies, wants to take over and set up a dictatorship. So you need, you need something to protect against the right wing, or the left wants to, be communist or whatever. No, just free fish for everybody, or whatever it may be. And so if you get 10% of the people who smuggle in arms, and if you have a fairly disarmed society, it could be freaking baseball bats, but, just come in, 10% of the people can come in. Just imagine a nation that, a sort of Western modern nation that is, the police really, they have pistols and a few rifles, but they're in the armory and all the police departments, and they have to do all kinds of signing things out to get a gun, sort of like it is or was in Britain, to get a gun out of the locker. And why do they really need it? And write up a report why they need to get the gun out of the locker before they'll even freaking get the gun out of the locker. And so, just let's say that, the police are basically unarmed and there's no army and whatnot. Just 10% of the population with baseball bats, fairly well determined, can freaking take over the nation. Okay. Do 10% get to dictate to the other 90% something? Free fish for everyone. Now everybody else wants to give free pizza to everybody. That's the national consensus. Every town is going to have a bunch of pizza parlors, or whatever you want to call them, making pizzas, and you can just come in and get a free slice of pizza whenever you want. But the free fish, this isn't even free stuff versus non-free stuff. This is, both groups agree that it's either free fish or it's free pizza for everybody. If you get tired of eating pizza, fine, you can buy other food, but pizza's free. The other people want fish for free. That's the conflict here. Free pizza or free fish. Well, you don't want to see the free fish come and take over from the free pizza people. So you need an army who's mostly supposed to stay in garrison, not be out on the streets all the time, just in case there is something out there, some political movement, some idea that is going to motivate a maybe significant, 10% is significant, but motivate a significant minority of the population to want to enforce its will on the nation. So you need an army. You just need an army. They need combat training. They're to come out maybe sometimes with shields and batons or rifles with bayonets on them, just to sort of deal with mob control. That you really don't want to kill the large group of people. You just want to come in and go, no. Whatever this no is. No, you don't get to, I'm thinking of not just current insurrections, but no, you don't get to storm the parliament and the Capitol. Just no. We're not going to even try to arrest all of you out there. We know you're upset, and maybe a lot of the soldiers agree with you're upset. But no, you don't get to, storm the Capitol and the Parliament. You just don't. It's just a no. Or it could be, they're setting up machine guns in front of the Parliament and Capitol buildings. And, if you really come across that line, the fence, the whatever, we're actually going to start shooting you people. So the first 2 or 3 over the fence, we're going to, shoot them with rifles, and maybe that'll go with the rest of the people. Oh, okay, they really mean it. They're actually shooting people. We can be out here and chant and shout and riot, but don't actually assault the Capitol building and the Parliament. Because I'm actually right now thinking of a photo I just saw the other day of what is clearly, by the way, he's holding, because they said a civilian firing at an anti-Ceausescu civilian, Romanian, firing at within basically an SVD that's a semi-automatic Soviet-type sniper rifle, at loyalist troops or whatever in the building. You just sort of see, the guy doing it. Well, he's clearly former military. If not, he's in civilian clothing, and I'll bet that he's civilian. But just by the way, he knows how to use that weapon. He isn't just some random person off the street who has this sniper rifle. I mean, he wasn't all like, hidden or sniping, but he just in the right position, holding it right. He was trained to do that. So that was the attempt to overthrow, Ceausescu. And it was people with guns overthrowing the government. And that was, that's where you had, the 10% in the government or whatever, and the people finally just said enough. We're getting rid of you. So yeah. At some point, if the military goes, yeah, hey, everyone's upset. The prime minister's caught eating peanut butter because peanut butter is just hated in the country, and he's got to go. But we're not going to let you come in and smash up the Capitol buildings, the actual buildings. Just like, yeah, the politics is going to work itself out. We may allow in a bunch of police to go arrest the prime minister or something like that, because eating peanut butter is just the worst thing in the world. And so we don't like what's going on here either, but you don't get to just come smashy our cultural heritage. So, and because we don't have lots of troops here today, to form, phalanxes and battle you with clubs and shields, we've got machine guns and we're going to defend it. You need an army. They're not trained to be police. They're trained to be armies. You okay, you got that. And I know a lot of you know that, but I don't know if everybody who watches the channel, because I do hope this educates fresh people, if you will. So you need to have an army. And you need to look around at your likely threats. Let's say, the 1920s, 1930s. You've got a Bolshevik threat, especially if you look in the 1930s, you have the Spanish situation. You've had 1922, the fascist situation, the March on Rome, that the government surrenders before the fascists show up, that kind of thing. They were on the way, but the army could have stopped them in a moment, but no, they surrender. So yeah, you could have a potential Bolshevik, naval landings or something, especially if you look at Germany, who's, and everybody's, bad books or something, so you got to sort of prepare for some level of defense. But like I say, unless you're going, defense level 12, that's beyond 11. Turn it up to 11. It's to defense level 12. Unless you're planning on doing that, Denmark really isn't going to defend itself against a lot of threats, or be able to, even if it really tries. And that's basically the situation that Denmark faces in World War II. Germany's rearmed. I don't think I would be shocked if they didn't do any mobilization drills at all, if they didn't do any extra training of troops, just to do it. If they didn't do any of that, I mean, I don't know if they did, but I'd be just shocked if they didn't do a little bit of that. But basically, when the Germans come in, there is almost no fighting. There are a few border skirmishes, and it's more like, hey, yeah, we're Danish soldiers with guns, and we're tasked with guarding the border, and oh, there's Germans with guns coming across. what? Hey, yeah, we have these guns. We're supposed to shoot at those guys, aren't we, guys? I mean, they're saying this in Danish, but yeah, aren't we supposed to? Yeah, I guess. And so they shoot a little bit at them, and the Germans overwhelm them. But they do their job. A few of them do. But basically, Denmark capitulates to the occupation. The Danish army actually gets to stay. They just are basically told to go back to their barracks, and the Germans let them go back to their barracks armed. And it's sort of like, yeah, the Germans are occupying us, but we still have an army. Our government's still here. The king is still here. He's riding his horse every day, or he takes it up riding his horse around Copenhagen every day, or most days, or whatever. And, we're just sort of like, yeah, they're here. They're sort of overwatching us. And Germany, through this whole time, as you can sort of tell by letting Denmark keep its army, it's not very big of an army. I'm thinking I should have made a special here, but yeah, since I'm telling the story, we'll continue the story of Denmark here in World War II. So they get to keep their army. The Germans, they send up a guy to take over, and whose job, he's actually, I believe, an SS guy, or sort of the guy who's in charge of not the army, but in charge of the occupation. And his goal is to get Denmark into the Reich in a very, very, very friendly manner. Basically, convince all the Danes that they just want to become Germans and Aryans and whatnot over time. No rush. 20 years, no problem. I don't know that they said 20 years, no problem. But, it take years. You take years. I mean, literally, it take years. Just do it. We're going to go super gently. Okay, so, this is all sort of going on. And I'll try to stay out of the most emotional part. And then, hey, yeah, that whole Ribbentrop-Molotov National Socialist Alliance kind of thing, that was really just bullshit. We were actually invading the Soviet Union. Hurrah, anti-Comintern Pact. Everybody who was in the first anti-Comintern Pact, come and sign up. Anybody else wants to sign up. So they get Denmark to join the anti-Comintern Pact, which they hadn't been an original member. I don't know that there was any special pressure put on them. I don't know of any. I'm not saying there wasn't, just saying I don't know of any. I'm not saying they weren't asked, and hey, it would really benefit you if you sign up or something, but they sign up for it. And so, now that they're a member of the anti-Comintern Pact, and hey, we're actually fighting the Comintern, actually, they're the central core of it, the Soviet Union. So they sort of go, hey, well, why don't you come and help us fight the Soviet Union? Just fight the Soviet Union. And the Dane political, military type leadership, well, if some of the Danish soldiers want to volunteer to go fight the Soviet Union, they can do so, but we're not going to force our soldiers to go do it. We're not going to order even any soldiers to go do it. So the Germans sort of go on a recruiting drive a bit there. At this point, this is fairly early in Barbarossa and whatnot. Things are going well, and I'm sure that everybody knows it in Europe. Newspaper headlines that Germans are having printed everywhere, as well as radio broadcasts and whatever the newsreels are going. And so they convince, and they basically tell the Danish soldiers, yeah, we're forming a volunteer legion of Danes to go fight in. Oh, of course, it's going to be the Danish army going to go fight. And okay. So the first bunch are Danish volunteers from the army, thinking that they're going to go fight in the Soviet Union for Denmark, if you will. Well, they show up at the training camp, and here's your Waffen-SS uniform. You're now a member of you're in a sort of associate member of the Waffen-SS. Well, they don't quite revolt or anything that harsh, but they sort of like, yeah, well, okay. sort of like pressed on them. They sort of like accept it. I don't know exactly. I don't know if anybody ever recorded exactly what was said, but it's sort of like, yeah, we can't quite just have 300, 600, whatever the number was. I think it was in the hundreds, maybe the low thousands. But it wasn't very large. Sort of roaming around the Soviet Union, and German soldiers might not immediately recognize that the sort of weird Danish helmets and different Danish uniforms are actually Allied troops. There's not enough of you. You got to dress like Germans, and since you're not a member of the Wehrmacht, well, the associated other legions, they're sort of like pseudo SS members, and so I don't think these guys really like join the SS proper, but they're in the Waffen SS, as it were. I know they're not like proper, because a bunch of different statuses with some of these various foreign corps in the Waffen SS, but because some of the units are, Second SS Panzer Division Das Reich, and then there's units like the free willing, volunteer for, but free willing Estonish division. I'm sort of butchering this. Like the first free willing Estonish, Estonian, but Estonish, I think is how they're saying it. Something, I'm sure I'm butchering it. Hi, my German viewers. Der SS, of the SS. So it's not an SS division, it's a division of the SS. They keep these distinctions. That way they don't have to have all the racial BS and whatnot associated with them. Where like the Viking division, which is a lot of Nordics, but there's also Germans in it, that is an SS division, if I remember correctly, as opposed to a division of the SS. So these are, and I think these guys may end up in Viking or something eventually. I don't know. But individual soldiers can have sort of their individual statuses within all that. So they sort of go. So the first group of Danes to go fight the Soviet Union are, I would say, a mix between life is boring, let's go, have action somewhere, because there's the world's on fire, let's go have action somewhere, and anti-communists. Now later on they continue to recruit in Denmark, and it's clear by the posters later on, you're recruiting for the SS, the Waffen SS. Those guys, they're out and out collaborationists. They're Nazis of one sort or another. The later, and there's many more of those guys coming later than the first draft of soldiers. The first draft goes out. They're Danish soldiers. Where later on they're recruiting from the army who volunteers, but just also volunteers fresh off the street and give them training. So Denmark is sort of kind of in the war. I don't think they actually declare war on the Soviet Union. They might, but they're sort of in it, fighting on the German side in the Eastern Front. Okay, well, things of course don't go so well for Germany, and there's a lot of Danes. The majority of them, I would say, are not terribly friendly with the idea of National Socialist Germany. So, and you have eventually, as time rolls around, you have the SOE and the OSS trying to stoke, resistance movements. Well, so they start making contact with Danes, and Danes are like, the resistance guys. Yeah, we're kind of receptive to some of this. This isn't a bad idea. This could be, we might need to do so. So yeah, you want to send us arms? Yeah, okay, cool. Yeah, don't know whether most of them are like submarines popping up off the coast and guys going out in rowboats and picking up the arms, or them, Lysanders That's one of the main light aircraft they used to fly in, land in a field at night and offload some arms, or whether they were paradropping arms in, or maybe they're doing all of the above and more. But they smuggle in a ton of arms. The Danes have also, because remember, the Danish army, at least initially, doesn't give up its weapons. I don't know if the Germans... I'm not sure what the Germans eventually do with the Danish army as time goes on. But there's a lot of weapons that get out and about. But the Danes, basically, and I don't know how much of this was communicated to the, SOE and the OSS, but basically are going, yeah, thanks for the weapons. We want the weapons. You can keep sending more weapons, but we're not doing anything. We're not doing anything. We are not going to commit partisan acts here. We're not going to try to disrupt the Germans in Denmark. We're just going to go along. But yeah, we want the arms. And, if conditions are ever right, we'll do something. So the Danes sort of go along, allowing the occupation to be fairly easy. And that's, I think, part of it on both sides. Is I'm sure the Germans have some intelligence that there's arms being sent in. I just can't imagine them not knowing. But I don't know of any major operations to try to snatch up arms. So I don't know that they're aware of the scale of the arms coming in. It's quite a lot, I understand. And the Danes are like, well, yeah, to themselves as well as to the Allies. The Germans aren't really being beastly to us. So yeah, we know they're being beastly to other people. We don't want to see them win. But since they're not being beastly to us, we're not going to, poke the big bear. That's just not going to be the thing. We're not going to, or poke the big, I don't know, whatever animal you want to use for Germany. We're not going to poke them. We're just going to let them lie. And so that's sort of the situation until sometime post D-Day. Once it's like, they're not just, 2 days later, but once it's clear that they're pushing into France and they aren't going to be thrown out, then there's the Danish national uprising. And it goes up all over Denmark. Now, some of the last Germans to surrender, I believe, were in Denmark, in some garrison units. So they don't rise up and take everywhere, but they isolate a lot of the garrison units. They, you can see the railways here. It is obviously a more detailed network, but it does seem to be mostly the Germans maintain communications, as it were, with maybe, with most of their major areas. But a good chunk of the, sort of countryside in Denmark gets over into, clearly into Danish hands. Germans could probably move just about wherever they really wanted to in Denmark by, moving battalions around, and the partisans would fade away. But small patrols, small garrisons, whatever, those get swamped up. And, I've seen some interesting photos of the Germans, 1945, marching out of Denmark, because that's how a lot of them seem to have left. And some were driving out too, driving and marching out. And right along the German border, as they're coming back to Germany, some of these photos have taken, and man, I would love to have been one of the soldiers there. Big piles of arms, because they're just like piles of pistols, sometimes just a pistol, more often like in a holster. They're just, you're coming back to Germany. We understand that you maintained yourself armed as you were, evacuating Germany, evacuating Denmark, because you didn't want to be sniped at by, partisans or something else. But now that you're back in Germany, Germany surrendered, you're coming home. Yeah, come on. For the most part, they weren't going to concentration camp or prisoner of war camps. I mean, there were Germans that were being put into, regular soldiers being put in prisoner of war camps, but the Allies just don't have the ability to warehouse all the German soldiers. They're looking, of course, for the war criminals, the diehards, the Waffen SS, even if they're not looking at them as war criminals. Now they were, but just those are going to be the diehards that are the, the people they're worried about, because there was, for a year or more, there was a lot of guerrilla activity going on in Germany, the werewolf program. So they're worried about those, but they can't lock everybody up. But they just want to get all the guns, all the weapons out of the Germans. They're evacuating, and it's sort of like, yeah, if you got an armored fighting vehicle or something, they may confiscate that, but definitely pull all the weapons out of it. If you just got trucks, we'll search you. Okay, no more weapons. Okay, you can, you still have gas, you can keep driving, kind of thing. And so they were evacuating out by that point. So that's sort of the story of Denmark in World War II. Should they have actually fought? No, I don't think from a national perspective, trying to be, a vigorous fighting nation when somebody like Germany is streaming over your border. No, just get in, just now. I don't think they had, but would have been a good idea to sort of do the Saddam Hussein strategy. Is he set up a whole plan that if the Western allies were to invade Iraq, for the Second Gulf War, and if your units are, if we're being, beaten all to hell. He had a whole program of disbanding the units, divisions, I'm thinking, and whatnot, the Republican Guard or whatever it was. What was the guard name? I don't know. And with stashes of arms everywhere, and just sort of fade back. You're still in the army. You're not dismissed, but just go put on civilian clothes, and you're supposed to, when your commander or whatever calls, obey his orders. A lot didn't, I'm sure, but a bunch did. So he to pre-set up a guerrilla campaign, and that kind of thing would be good in Denmark, because that's sort of what happens, but that's not, I don't think, set up beforehand, because you can look at asymmetrical warfare that sort of need to judge on whether you should do it or not. Germany's going to be all conquering. What good does asymmetrical warfare do you? You're just going to get ground down, people killed, and you're just going to lose. You can be sort of like, I don't know, the Apache or something, one last remembered fight. We're dying out. They're not like trying to bring in the little kids and the women and have all the Apaches die, but all the warriors that knew the pre-reservation. They didn't all go and do this, but a bunch did. I don't think even the majority did, but a bunch did. Let's go out fighting. Because our way of life is ending. They're looking around, and sometimes they're being not so much treated really. The American relations with its Indians are complicated. It's complicated. But you often have Indians fighting warfare the way they fought warfare, with taking captives, warfare, which was common amongst the Indians themselves, warfare, on women and children, but, not just going after, they weren't even, going, oh, there's these settlers on our land. They didn't just ride in or something and shoot the farmer or the rancher or whatever, the man, okay, because if you go, this is all of our land, you're invaders, we're going to shoot you. And then go, yeah, bang, you're dead or whatever, snipe him, just in the field, one night or whatever. And then go away and, figuring that the women and children, just can't survive on their own, so they're going to leave. No, they went and butchered everybody. Okay, so this, of course, enrages the Americans. I'm defining American U.S. citizens versus the Indians that did not accept American citizenship. So this enrages the Americans. And since they don't know the name of the person who did the bad acts, and they did lock some up in jail eventually, but a lot of times they really weren't set up to lock people up in jail, and they have the sort of death penalty. Oh, you're killing women and children. Oh, what's your penalty? Oh, is to die. And since just fighting their warriors and killing their warriors wasn't getting them to stop their butchery of what we considered innocents, yeah, some American commanders gave orders to kill the women and children. I don't blame them for those orders under those conditions. I'm not saying it's right or acceptable. I just, understanding the mindset of the people and the capabilities of the people at the time, yeah, I'm not going to apologize for that in every case. Now maybe I could go, yeah, that just isn't justified, but they did it a lot to people, and who did what first, getting a long blame game. So the situation with the Native Americans is a complicated history. And so, yeah, I'm not going to, apologize for all of that. But, but the warriors of the young warriors that were feeling that their way of life was going. And yes, this has been romanticized in the movies, and that's, John Wayne and whatnot is where I get a lot of this stuff. But I've also watched documentaries that are fairly modern. I mean, they're maybe 20 years old now, but, that aren't all, American flag waving good, Indians bad stuff, trying to be a balanced approach to this. I've really tried to, I haven't studied it in any detail, but watched some documentaries and read some articles and whatnot. There really was several different sort of war leaders, and Geronimo was one of them, that really was looking to, better to burn out than to fade away kind of thing. But realizing that the women and the children and the old folk, they were going to more or less survive and whatnot. And, there was going to be somebody, their descendants around, but they were no longer going to be these wild, tribal, free, whatever. They're going to be people living on reservations, adopting the white man's ways, whatever it may be. I was going to get down there with some of the bad things that happened on the reservations. Yeah, they were in the government's care and custody, but there was a lot of corruption, which is not the U.S. government's policy. It's more, they're way off away from civilization, and people, are corrupt, and, so they, shortchange the food allowances or whatnot, try to make extra money. Whether that would be considered a lot of money back then or a little money back then, I don't know. But, people were corrupt. So they weren't always treated as well as planned on the reservations. But generally, it was supposed to be reasonably good as they understood things back then. But so, yeah, you can get the idea that maybe your nation wants to go down fighting. But I don't know that that's really the best policy. Now, if you're going to be put in camps and exterminated, it's better to go down fighting. Talking about the Jews. The Jews should have fought harder. And eventually they did. I mean, eventually they woke up. But, they could have just, I don't know, I'm thinking like when they were being rounded up, and especially outside of Germany when they were rounding up around different parts of Europe during the war, that they weren't just getting knives and, hearing about the rounding ups and getting the word out, and making, long, sharp things, whether I'm thinking farm implements, but yeah, I know they're city folk, but getting poles, putting something on them. And when the Germans try to come there, you stab one of them. Yeah, your whole family may die, but I know the optimism, and we may survive, we may get out of this. But if you had fought harder, however many millions. You know, is it 3? Is it 6? Is it 12? Probably somewhere between 6 and 12. I don't know. Yeah, the Germans couldn't have done it. It would have just been too many people fighting too hard. You just could, and run your war. You just couldn't have done it. It would have ground to a halt. But no, they didn't. And so, yeah, they didn't fight. But that's why the sort of resistance plan, if things go bad, is a good idea. But if they're not going so bad, it's probably better not to fight. And then it's better to watch. And then when the timing is right, get into it. So yeah, I think Denmark, for what happened, probably made the best choices. Okay. Hope that was interesting on Denmark. Hope it was interesting gameplay in the first half. Well, see you next time for more historical gaming and long talks.